Welcome to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Heartland Crime Stoppers is a community-based program designed to help law enforcement solve crimes by providing a way for the public to phone in tips anonymously and receive cash rewards of up to $3,000 for information that leads to an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs. Heartland Crime Stoppers is funded through the State of Florida Office of the Attorney General Crime Stoppers Trust Fund and through donations from the community. Citizens and local businesses make Crime Stoppers work. On today's show, we will talk with Larry Holden, Police Chief with Davenport Police Department, feature some of our most wanted criminals, but we'll start off the show by talking with Michael Teague, Police Chief of the Lake Hamilton Police Department. Welcome to Crime Stoppers, Chief.
Welcome, Chip.
It has been about 2 years since you've had you on the show, and I know you kind of remind our viewers where you came from. You've kind of been on the ridge all your life.
Oh yeah, I started back in 2000 and actually before 2000 in Eagle Lake Police Department. I was a reserve there. Went from there and got hired on at Lake Alfred. Spent several years at Lake Alfred, and then transitioned over to Haines City, and was there till about 2013. Worked my way as a corporal, K-9 officer, as a road supervisor, traffic homicide investigator, and then I went into the college realm, and I was teaching at Kaiser in their criminal justice and forensic department for about 6 years. And then the opportunity came open for the chief job in Lake Hamilton, and I applied and was one of the lucky ones that was chosen to partake in this adventure.
Well, it has been like 2 years now, and I'm sure you're starting to settle in and kind of understand all the nuances and the things that you thought you knew and the things that you found out that you didn't know quite as well as you had hoped.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We got a very good council over there. They're very supportive. The community is very supportive of the police department, and all the other agencies, including the Sheriff's Department with Grady, has been very helpful in assisting the transition and helping us get to where we are at this point right now.
Now, you had mentioned, of course, right now you're in the middle of your budget phase, and you were just talking before the show about how that has gone really smoothly for you.
Yes, the first 2 or 3 budgets I've gone through at the town has been very flawlessly. Like I said, the council, every one of them is very supportive. There's been really no roadblockings. Their concerns first and foremost is for the taxpayers of the community, but you know, it's just been flawless, as it says, very easy going in the budget processing.
Yeah, it really has to be an advantage to have such that personal relationship. It's not somebody that's across town or that you email back and forth. I mean, these are people that you deal with and see every day and work with, and it really makes a cohesive team for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, they understand the needs of the community, number first. They also understand the needs that the department needs, as well as all the other departments within the town as well too. So yeah, it's been good.
Now, I know that you are in the process of doing some remodeling and some rebuilding there of the police department, so in Lake Hamilton. So tell us about that.
We started a building process. Before I got there, it started a couple years before, and it started with just as a remodel. But as we've gone through the things, it's turned into an actual, it's about $1 million project. It's for the addition of a new police department building on the back of the town hall, as well as a remodel of the whole town facility there. The facilities we're in, about a 100-year-old schoolhouse, and it's very cramped in there. And but the new building, which should be breaking ground around January, should cover the needs for several years for the community.
Yeah, that's quite a change from just a remodel to now having a $1 million, budget for that, and they're again just having the funding in place. That takes a lot of time and effort on everybody's part.
Yeah, it was a lot of obstacles. Again, like I said, the council was there for it every step of the way to make sure all the building blocks, the staff at the town, making sure all the needs that we needed were in place there. But it's going to be a beautiful facility when they're complete with it.
Now, I know that you are experiencing some of the growth that the Four Corners area is growing, not as fast as some of the other, cities close to you, but you're also starting to see a lot of that impact your department.
Yeah, we've had a couple subdivisions that broke ground and finished. We got several more that's on the horizon as the infrastructure is being put in place in the town. They've got a new sewer line in. They've got new water lines going to go in. They got some road repaving, and then these subdivisions come online. It's going to change the outlook of that small little town community in the future. So.
Yeah. And I guess you can just see in your history as well, when you have such a small community, you know, when you come from a different agency, many times it's has a large city, and you know where the problem people are in your town, but you kind of have the advantage that you know everybody in your town.
Yes, it's really good. You can go to the meeting place, I would say, would be the post office when people come and talk to you. But you know people on a first name basis. They know you on a first name basis. You know, they reach out to you all the time, and that's a good understanding when they do know that, instead of just, you know, that's a police officer, that's the police chief. That first name basis really helps in a lot of our crimes that we do have. So.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know you had talked about some cases that you were working in, and of course, we had the video. Sometimes they're posted on Facebook and things, and just be able to have somebody to call you up or send you a comment and say, hey, I recognize that person. It just helps so much, because police officers, the police department can't do it by themselves. They need the involvement of that community, and having that buy-in with them and that trust is just so important.
And that's true. You know, the best police officer, the best case, it's going to be the community at hand, or someone in the community that comes forward and says, yeah, I want to help. They see something, they say something, and they want to be part of that aspect to make sure that they stay safe.
I know also that as you're planning for the future, you are in the process of, or the pre-process, whatever you want to call it, to become accredited as a law enforcement agency. Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a daunting task. One of the main things is we need that building completed as part of that. We've already got our policies in place. They've been upgraded. We got training going on, in fact, with my assistant and myself as part of the accreditation stuff that we're going to need. And then we're working with CFA on everything we need, as well as some other departments that's going to help us transition into that when we, you know, hopefully within about 18 to 24 months we'll be finished with that.
Now, I'm assuming that probably you have some personnel in your department that are helping with the rewording those policies and putting them in place and doing all that kind of stuff as well.
That is correct, plus also getting stuff from other departments as well. So,
yeah, and it's amazing how much help the other departments are, you know, that you're not out there by yourself. You know, I mean, there's so many other departments, you know, that if you have a need, you can reach out and call and just say, hey, what are you doing here? How do I need to word this or whatever? Because there's so much detail involved in that it's hard for one person to have all that information themselves. You really have to gather it from other sources.
That's correct. You know, if they've already built something that's really good and if it's already been verified, you know, it's easy to just remove it and place your items in it, and it makes it much easier. Some of these policies, like the RPO one that's out, that's come online since the shootings down in Fort Lauderdale, is very extensive. So it took a lot of wording to go into that, and a lot of stuff with attorneys and stuff to make sure it's all where it needs to be.
Okay, now you said RPO. Tell us what that is.
It's a risk protection. It has to do with Baker Acts and those with firearms, and it helps law enforcement in respect to remove those guns for a period of time, to help the community stay safe as well as the individual stay safe as well.
Yeah, that is a delicate topic. You certainly want to keep people safe from someone misusing a weapon, but you also want to ensure that the people that have the right to have weapons have them. And
that is correct.
It's I'm sure you see it just in your community. It'll divide some people, and you really have to keep level heads and talk through it. And sometimes you just have to agree to disagree.
That's correct.
Now, I know that you do a lot of outreach in your community as a police chief and the police department and the heads of your city. Tell us some of the things you're doing, your community events, if you will.
Oh, we've got several community events. We just finished our 2nd of July Veterans Wall Memorial and Fireworks. Officer Burns with us expanded it and brought in dunk tank and brought in some vendors, food vendors, and some little craft vendors. We've got a back to school splash coming up that Officer Burns has helped push behind. She's raised funds for 100 backpacks for school supplies for children.
Well, that's so good.
She's in the process of getting someone to do some haircuts. They're going to have a splash pad and bouncy pad and stuff for the kids. And we're going to also tie that in with Community Appreciation Day. We're going to have some officers cook hamburgers and hot dogs for the community. And we're also going to add in the National Night Out as part of that as well too. Myself and the mayor, we do the mayor and chief chat. One of the new ones we got now is called Out and About with the mayor and chief. I placed the mayor in a Polaris, and we go out into the community and we speak to the individuals on their front doorstep when they're mowing their lawns. We bring them a nice cold water, and it's a good time for them, the opportunity to speak and let us know what's going on in the community.
Yeah, it's people are so busy in their lives they can't always run down to the police station and pop in, and say, "Hey, Chief, how are you doing?" And it's so good for you and the mayor to go out and just to listen to people, because they will probably tell you stuff on their front doorstep that otherwise, if you didn't run into them or ask them, you would have no idea.
That is correct. And we've also got we do a trunk or treat at the police department every year. And we're going to expand it into like a fall festival this year. And then we got our Adopt a Kid program, our Adopt a Family program at Christmas time, where they raise the funds, they do shop with a cop, and not only that, they bring the kids in and have them take them out and shop for their parents, and bake cookies, and we get a meal for the family or families, however many we on the thing. And it's just a really good community outreach, because, you know, it's law enforcement more than just putting people in jail. It's being part of that community.
Yeah, and like you said, that is important, because that's not only your job, that's your community. I mean, you live and work there, and you have a vested interest in what goes on, you know, because you want to make it safe for everyone.
That is correct, sir.
Yeah. Chief Teague, thank you for being on the show today. We look forward to the new buildings that you have going on there in Lake Hamilton, and so good to hear of all the stuff that you're doing with the community.
And I appreciate you having me on the show again, Chip.
For more information on the Lake Hamilton Police Department, you can check them out on the web at townoflakehamilton.com/police department, or look them up on Facebook at Lake Hamilton Police Department. Crime Stoppers provides a way for local law enforcement to receive information on crimes while keeping the people providing that information anonymous. These efforts increase tips, which in turn solve more crimes and identify criminals in our community. Here's a look at some of our most recent cases.
The Winter Haven police are investigating an armed robbery that occurred on July 20th at approximately 8:50 p.m. The subject in this composite was a passenger in a vehicle that robbed the victim of his cell phone and then searched the victim for anything else that he had. The driver was described as a black male. The passenger was a black male, approximately 6 feet tall, with a slender build, wearing a white tank top and black shorts. He had a short haircut with a zigzag pattern cut in the hair. We still need your help in solving the hit-and-run fatality that occurred on November 26, 2017 on State Route 60 in Mulberry, where 30-year-old Barry Lee Powell Jr. was struck and killed. The fatal hit-and-run crash occurred around 1:30 a.m. on Sunday, November 26th. 30-year-old Barry Lee Powell of North Pleasant Avenue in Bartow was walking westbound along the shoulder of Highway 60 just east of Cedar Trail Landfill in Bartow when he was struck by an unknown vehicle also traveling westbound. 26-year-old Shakia Rosetta Samoya Boyd of Riverview has felony warrants out in Polk County for racketeering, conspiracy to commit racketeering, criminal use of personal ID, and grand theft. Her criminal history includes prior arrests for the same, as well as drug possession, traffic offenses, and criminal mischief. Over the course of 6 months, Bird and her friends hit various JCPenney stores and made 65 fraudulent purchases, purchasing over $21,000 worth of goods with someone else's credit debit info. They did 15 of these 65 separate crimes in Polk County stores. On June 28, 2018, an unidentified white female entered Publix located at 23965 Highway 27 in Lake Wales and dropped off a fraudulent prescription at the pharmacy. The pharmacist stated that this was the third attempt by the same suspect. On June 15th and June 23rd of 2018, the below pictured subject entered the Haines City Lowe's at 37051 Highway 27 in Haines City. During the June 15th incident, he selected a Husqvarna blowers worth $747, and on the June 23rd incident, he removed Remington brand chainsaws valued at $557. The subject made no attempt to pay for these items, and the total loss at the store was approximately $1,304. If you have any information on any of the cases you've just seen, or any information on an unsolved crime, please contact Heartland Crime Stoppers and leave an anonymous tip. The toll-free tip line is 1-800-226-TIPS. That's 8477. You can also leave an anonymous web tip by going to www.heartlandcrimestoppers.com and click on the Give a Tip tab, or by going to www.p3tips.com. Don't forget, you can download our free P3 Tips app on your smart device. Whichever way you choose to leave a tip, you will remain 100% anonymous. If your tip results in an arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or the recovery of illegal drugs, you could be eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. The Davenport Police Department is dedicated to serving the Davenport community with the most professional approach to law enforcement available. Larry Holden, Davenport Police Chief, joins us in the studio for this segment of Crime Stoppers. Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I understand it's been about 2 years since you've been on the show with us, but I know you were originally born in Ohio, but you were raised in the Winter Haven, Lake Wales area.
Yes, sir. Grew up in Lake Wales area, so this I was an infant when I moved here from Ohio, so I consider Polk County my home.
Yeah. Now, you also, obviously, besides growing up in that area, you worked for Winter Haven Police Department and the Lake Wales Police Department before you were named the police chief in Davenport.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How was that experience? I guess that did a lot to prepare you, did it not?
Yes, and it was nice having a couple different departments and different leadership that mentor you. So it gave me more to pick and choose on how I wanted to be a leader. So that was a great experience for me.
Yeah, it's always so nice to put on that experience that you can go back on and things that worked, maybe some things that didn't work that really shape your career and your leadership. And it really, I'm sure the Davenport Police Department and their citizens are really glad to have you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I enjoy being there.
Indeed. Now, our viewers may have noticed that we don't often see beards on the uniformed officers, and you had an interesting story of how this started, and so.
Right, we started it about 2 years ago, with breast cancer awareness. And what we did is reached out to the officers in the department, and they could give a donation if they wanted to have a beard. Well, that was during the month of October, and then we carried it on for prostate cancer the next month in November. And then it kind of stretched out that we wanted to do one more thing for Christmas. Once again, just each month a donation. And then from then on, and it was kind of a gauge for me to judge with the community, an acceptance, because we do rely on our community for our standards, and we had no questions, no problems about it. So as a recruitment tool, we then moved on to say that, under some certain strict guidelines, what you can and can't have, the males can have beards even on patrol.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's because that's something that typically we see in this area. But that little edge to help with your recruitment and just give something for the officers.
Oh yeah, times are tough right now for recruiting police officers, especially with the new school safety laws that came out, where there are so many school resource officers are being hired. The pool of officers, it's just you're fighting against everybody. And what we found before, it used to be we were fighting against the bigger agencies. Winter Haven, Lakeland, Sheriff's Office, but even they're having problems now filling the slots. So this is one little thing. It's small, but it's hopefully a little edge that we can encourage, some prospective applicants to come to us.
Yeah. Now I know that y'all have had a lot of growth in your area, and you just mentioned about having new school resource officers and the new Marjorie Douglas Stoneman Act. I believe that has gone into effect, and that's even affected. An agency as small as yours, which is what, 11 officers?
11 sworn, currently. When you talk about the growth, the city of Davenport has doubled its size in the last 3 years. We went from 2,500 to a little over 5,000. With that said, we're planning or projecting to double again within the next 3 years to over 10,000. We've been the first and second fastest growing city in the county for the last few years, and in the top 5 in the state of Florida. So Davenport's growing. It's growing fast. We have over 20 developments planned and in the progress of being built. And with that, the recent stats came up with is we're adding about 150 residents a month. And that's planning on happening over the next 3 years at least of this growth. With that growth, I mean, we have a great commission in place, and we have a city staff that realized that we needed to start expanding. We had a community center or a chamber, community center, commission chambers that it was standing room only the last year. For most of the meetings, people were standing outside because it was just so small from the growth. So we just recently, about 2 months ago, completed a new chamber building, commission chambers. We're remodeling the old city hall and the commission chambers and making it more citizen friendly. That's going to be our water billing department and just the main place for citizens to come. And it was kind of a cumbersome to get into, so the way we're going to redevelop, it's going to make it great for the public to come in with that building. We also were projected to build a new community or a recreation center, a multi-basketball court, arts center, dining facility for banquets and stuff. So, I mean, our city manager and the commission, we're putting a lot of residents in, but we need to make sure we have the services, stuff for the families to do, the kids to come to. And so that's why, they're looking at that too. And along with that, during a budget workshop that we just had, I'd asked for 2 officers, and the commission said that I needed another one. And then they've also asked me, well, what's your plans for growing? Because they know that we've already outgrown the police department. Yeah. And when you start doubling in size, they realize that all the city departments have to grow too to cover that. So it's a really exciting time. There's some potential commercial growth that's maybe coming in the future that will just really start bringing, giving stuff for the residents to have, restaurants and businesses that we were kind of lacking on before. So it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, it's really nice to see, the support from your city manager and city commissioners and your community itself in wanting to make these improvements and allowing them to move forward. It's just a really good time, like you say, to be kind of on that ground floor and watch it grow. It has to be really exciting for you.
It is. I mean, it's got its challenges. There was an article last year that Davenport over the past 3 years had the lowest crime rate in the county. We're excited about having that. But with growth, your crime goes up. And what I started when I first came was trying to build relationships with the community. And I firmly believe that, once you get that relationship where there's a trust and an openness to call us. I mean, there's so many times where I didn't want to bother you because the dog was barking. Well, we want you to do that. And people have asked, over the years, how did you get that low crime rate? Well, it comes with building a trust with our community and just good community policing. I tell a story about some undercover agents that were in the city trying to do an investigation. They called me up and said, look, every time we set up, somebody from the community calls on us. And I made a joke saying, see something, say something.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And he said, you got your people trained. And I'm like, that's what we want. I hate the fact that it was messing up his investigation, but we tell our citizens, call us for anything. If you hear the dog barking, if you smell something don't smell right, just anything, call us, because we'd much rather come there and stop something than have to go back and do reports and process crime scenes in the middle of the summer and you're sweating and so it bug us early before anything so we can prevent anything. And I think that solution's starting to work. And when the citizens feel like they can come talk to you, then it builds that baseline foundation so that when there are problems, hopefully they won't occur, but it's going to happen, that both sides are comfortable asking questions and accepting answers, both ways. So I'm excited about that, and it seems like it's working. Each year we try different projects. Last year we bought a snow cone machine that we go out to the parks and give free snow cones out to the kids. And
during the summer, that has to be really popular.
Oh yeah, and during Hurricane Irma, and we learned, a unique thing with our city staff is all the directors and the staff all went through Hurricane Charlie, so we have hurricane experience. But you always learn, and with Irma, we learned that what we ended up doing, we're one of the few buildings that have power because of our generator and air condition. So it's a stressful time. So what we did is we ran some plug extension cords out and kind of gave them a cool spot, a cooling off where they can come, they can charge their electronics in the air condition. Plus we gave them snow cones. I mean, so they love that. And you don't want to say you have an agenda because, I really don't, but I just want to have a conversation with people. Yeah. The hard stuff comes later, or what can the crime and all that comes later. Let's just be neighbors, and that's what we reach for. And I think that, along with we just recently got reaccredited, and
I saw that. That's a big step. And even though it's a small department, you're still meeting the same standards that the Polk County Sheriff's Department is meeting.
Oh, correct. Yeah, it's the same standards across the state. We're accredited through the Commission of Florida Law Enforcement, and like I say, it's the same standard. Everybody's held to over 200 standards, rules that they have to apply, and it covers every aspect of the department. And what that does is, for me, or my belief is, it sets our level of professionalism just one step above anybody else. That's not accredited, because we do have to adhere to them standards. And as a small department, it's a little bit more difficult. Just kind of, you got small amount of people to wear so many hats.
Yes.
Yes. I can't thank the officers more, or my accreditation manager, who's my assistant, records, evidence, she does it all. And to get us through this, was a great experience. If you listen to the assessors that in bigger agencies, they want to ride along with officers and question them to make sure they know what they're talking about. Well, the disadvantages that we have, but we look at it as an advantage, they ride with every one of our officers because there's so few. And when you get the responses back that they didn't try to hide from us, they were excited to answer our questions, and they bought into the system and believed in accreditation. I mean, that's a great feeling. And for our citizens, it just shows them that, we're going to be the most professional department we can be. And once again, it's that trust building. It's another step of, building that trust with our residents and knowing that they can come talk to us and they're going to deal with professionals. Yeah,
it's so, again, exciting to see that, because, these officers, they just don't have something that comes down from the chief, and, say, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. They're actually part of that program to get those things implemented and help writing those procedures and policies. And then just because you have them, you still have to abide by them. So it's a lot for them to remember, but it, in the long run, really makes their job much easier and makes the protection and the service to the citizens just super.
Yeah, because it's all kind of spelled out for you. You know exactly what you do. The first part of accreditation, the first time to become accredited, is just, these are all of your policies and what we call general orders. When you get reaccredited, it's like, okay, this is what you said you were going to do. Now prove to us you did it.
Exactly.
And it goes back the whole past 3 years. That we have to make sure that we show, checks and balances that we're doing what we say we're doing. So it's been an exciting time.
Well, Chief, thanks for being on the show today. We're excited about the growth in Davenport and the expansion for the city services and the city itself, and looking forward to seeing here in a couple of years the expansion of the police department and how it has grown and the new personnel. It's just, thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For more information on the Davenport Police Department, you can find them on the web at www.mydavenport.org or on Facebook at Davenport Police Department. That's going to do it for this edition of Crime Stoppers. Keep in mind, Heartland Crime Stoppers is an organization that helps law enforcement solve crimes through anonymous tips and monetary rewards. It encourages a cooperative partnership between law enforcement, the media, and the community to ensure security and enhance our quality of life here in Polk County. For more information on us, you can check us out on the web at heartlandcrimestoppers.com or follow us on Facebook at Heartland Crime Stoppers Florida. And until next time, keep in mind, it's a crime, and you can help make sure that they don't get away with it.